Have you ever spent hours fixing your beat, but no matter what you try, you still just want to throw it in the garbage? Well, here's the thing, most beats only need a few small adjustments to go from trashable to treasure. And in this video, I'm going to share 3 key ideas you can use if you're ever stuck trying to turn a bad beat into gold. These tips have already helped producers put a stop to making beats that sound like trash the next day, and some producers are even winning beat making contests just months after starting making beats using some of the ideas that I will show you today. Now, to show you these 3 ideas, I'm going to be using one of my subscribers' beats, John Fresco. He was having a hard time figuring out what to do with his beats, so I'll play it for you here. And I want you to see if you can point out what one of the big problems that instantly jumped out to me was. So here we go. Alright, so let me show you what one of the big problems was in this beat by explaining it like this. Imagine if all my videos were made like this, with me standing to the side. And if every time I showed you some helpful beat making tip, everything was also way to the side. Is this how you make a good video? The answer is no. And this is one of the major problems that jumps out to me with this beat here. The main sound in it, the sound that is special and unique, is this flute sample, but listen to where it sits in the beat. It's just way off to the side. Now, to get balance on this beat, we'd have to build an idea that fits, but put it on the opposite side of the stereo field, which would be extremely difficult and also an uncommon way to just make beats. Or you can just simply take what's special about your beat and just put it in the middle. So that's tip number 1, positioning. Whenever I make a beat, I try to think about what's special, and I position it in a way where it becomes the focal point, not way off to the side somewhere, or sitting behind some other instrument, or super quiet in the beat. So there we go. So that's one problem down. Next, there's something else that jumped out to me with John's approach that you may have noticed as well. So let's focus on the drums here. What John did was chop up the drums from the sample and created his own pattern. A great idea, but the pattern that he built falls into a common beginner trap. So let's take a listen, and this time just focus on the drums. Now, this might be controversial advice, but I really recommend you avoid these kinds of drum ideas when you first start making beats. I used to do this all the time when I first started making beats, and it wasn't until I stopped that my beats started to actually sound good. What I mean is, look at the ideas in here. Sometimes snares show up early, other times they show up late. The kicks are the exact same way as well. These decisions just feel random. Furthermore, the core drum pattern itself is just full of irregular ideas. We don't have a kick playing on the 1. We also have this somewhat unusual ending to the pattern as well, and it happens over and over again in the core drum pattern. And the reason why I don't recommend beginners do this is because I wasted years making bad beats doing this exact same mistake, which is just having no intention. So I'll explain it like this. I'm sure you know who Pablo Picasso is, or I've at least heard of him. He's known to have invented Cubism, which is a unique approach to painting people with unusual dimensions and shapes with strange lighting. And this is exactly how a lot of beginners, myself included, want to approach their beats at first, to have this abstract way of making beats right away and to make every part of the beat unusual. But here's the thing, Picasso didn't start off by doing this. He spent years making regular paintings while learning the fundamentals and understanding the conventions of painting. He learned how to paint bodies normally, how to create proper lighting. And so then later, when he did decide to break the rules, it was done with intention. He understood exactly what rule he was breaking and exactly how this would help his work actually stand out by challenging an exact norm, which is very different than just doing things randomly and hoping you stumble upon a new and amazing idea, or hoping it sounds creative rather than just sounding random. So what does this mean for John's pattern? Well, I'm going to make it sound much more straightforward. You can see with these changes that I made, I now have a kick on the 1 to create an anchor point in the drum pattern. As well, I am going to be much more deliberate with quantization. Now, most of the sounds are on time with only a few sounds having that off-kilter feel. Again, I'm not saying what John is doing here is wrong or that you should never break rules, but with beat making, you don't need every single sound or element or idea to stand out and be unusual in your beat. So that's tip number 2, standardize. Being straightforward with some ideas in your beat is absolutely fine. In fact, it can help the idea in your beat that is special actually stand out. Now, next up, when we listen to John's beat, you probably felt like something is missing. After all, it's just a sample and drums, and that's kind of it. And this is something that you might struggle with too, how to know what your beat needs and why your beats feel empty. Well, one of the frameworks that I follow is to make sure that one of the first things that I do is fill up all 4 frequency zones in my beat. The low mid, the mid, and the high. Now with John's beat in mind, let's think about which sounds sit where. When we look at the sample, we see it's doing a great job of filling up the mid frequencies. So we can check that one off the list. I've also added some static noise to fill up a bit of the high end, plus with the hi-hats and the brightness from the snare, this zone feels present. I will say overall, you might not want to add too much in the high frequency zone, just because vocals need space up in this zone to sound clear, but if you don't care about vocals, then this won't be a consideration. In terms of the low end, we do have a kick from the drums, plus this synth bass that John decides to add here. But as you can see, in the entire beat, the bass only shows up a few times, and typically kicks often aren't enough to fill up the low end in a beat. So that's one issue we will want to address too, which is to have more low end be present more often. But to me, the major issue in this beat is that there really isn't a single instrument or sound within this beat that's doing a good enough job of filling up the low mid. And this is the big reason why this beat sounds incomplete to me. So to fix this issue, let me grab a synthy bass similar to what John was using here. And I'll create a pattern for my bass line so the bass is playing more often in the beat to bring more presence to that low frequency zone. But even with this, as you can hear, this beat still feels empty, and that's because the low mid, as I mentioned, it's still missing. In my experience in listening to a lot of producers' beats, this is the most common missing piece. So here's what I'm going to do to fix this. I'll find a sound that sits in the low mid region. Next, I'll create a pattern with this, and in case building patterns along with your sample is something that you struggle with, I use Note Grabber to see what all the notes in my sample are. And this is just going to help me build a pattern that actually works with my sample much easier. So this is the third missing piece in John's beat, frequency filling. And again, if you struggle to build patterns around your beats, check out Note Grabber right next to me. You can try it for free for 14 days. But if you want to get better at sampling overall, click the video right next to me. It's going to help you understand how your chopping approach may be what's causing you problems. So click that video. Click it. Click it.